Oh my goodness.
right, folks. Hi, everybody. That blank screen there, that's Kim and Susan Greening Davis there. They look like that. There, that's
Yeah.
that's Kim on the left and Susan Greening Davis on the right, joining us tonight to talk about samplers. So, so when we go to the 3-panel thing, that's who you're looking at there, instead of just the corner of that chair. So, all right, I'm gonna go this way. Yeah, see, that's a nice chair. There we go.
That's a lovely chair. There's Kim.
She's looking lovely.
Yeah, so that works out. All right, a few announcements. We got to take a few minutes for announcements here tonight, just to get everybody up to speed, because a couple of things came up just in the last day. And so our Sunday guest is here. Nobody's going to be on screen here now. Sorry, there's sound now. Okay, so starting over. Yeah, see, Susan, I told you we wouldn't win any awards for formality here.
I don't know. I'm going to have a really nice one next time I see you. I'm going to present it to you.
Okay, so our guest Sunday is Sarah Pedlow, as we talked about in the podcast today, and she is one of those people who meets and immerses herself in different cultures and learns different needlework techniques, the way they did them in the old way, in the old country, in the old times, and keeps them alive and creates designs and teaches them. And it's a fascinating conversation we had with her. And this is just one example here. What?
I was going to say they're still okay. They can hear you now. Never mind.
Yeah,
I kept hearing seeing no sound. Okay.
Should be, yeah, delays catching up. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Hungarian stitching, Hungarian Erasmus stitching that she did, and then almost all of this is used to decorate costumes. The the formal dress and the for festivals and those kinds of things. And here's just one example. This is Portugal. Some of the stitching there and some of the needlework and the symbology and all of this and so on and so forth. So that's Sunday's guest. You can see both ladies there with the same kind of stitching on these sleeves. And so Sunday's guest, Sarah Pedlow, was fascinating to learn from her, and just terrific to be able to talk to somebody who's keeping these old techniques and these old designs alive and sharing them outside of small communities. So that's Sunday. And no drawing tonight. So you see on the screen at the bottom there, Kim kind enough to offer for everyone. So everybody wins tonight. So if Sassafras sampler charts at sassyjackstitchery.com, and when you order, use the code FT20, and that gets you 20% off, and that's good tonight all the way through Sunday night. So
so let me just add a little something in there. So when I went in and tested that today, you have to be sure to enter that code into the coupon field. And so when you go to check out, there's a little box up at the top of the screen that says click here if you have a coupon. So you click there and you enter in FT20, and it doesn't matter if it's capital or small letters. And then it will apply the discount to the charts. So it's the Sassafras sampler charts.
Okay.
Yeah, all of them. And there's a lot. There's a ton of them, actually. There's probably 15 of them at least.
Yeah. Yeah, you won't lack for options, but it's just Sassafras sampler charts, so mind that. But yeah, there's plenty. So shop till your heart's content, 20% off, and then of course Kim, happy to help you kit those up if you when you buy them. She'll help you with that. So That going on now, right now until Sunday night. So you have time to do some shopping and get the credit card out and all those kinds of things. So and I'll leave that up on the screen at some point here tonight. We'll take it down because it'll be in the way, but we'll leave it up for a good long time so that you can get that. Just FT20. This is going to be one of those nights where if you have a pad and paper or pen and paper, you're going to be a happy person. Still looking for people to share images for Wednesday shows for the videos, and also people to volunteer to share their work on the Wednesday night shows. Just let me know. Send email, Gary@wetalkfiber.com, and we can do that. I'm just going to leave the pretty picture up here of these ladies rather than looking at me. You're going to be better off for that. So last week's, remember we had the Avlia chart bonanza. And so last week's winners, Sharon Asplin, Dorothy Brancato, Kathy Doherty, Sarah Gusick, Genia James, Carolyn Kotz, and Annette Navarro were our winners. And those all got mailed Friday, and I know that because I did the mailing. So all of those, so you probably either have them or we'll get them tomorrow or Friday. So Sharon Asplin, Dorothy Brancato, Kathy Doherty, Sarah Gusick, Genia James, Carolyn Kotz, and Annette Navarro were the winners. So yay for you. Those charts and or kits coming to you from Krista West at Avlia. And then a really cool thing happened here just yesterday. If you're a longtime listener, you may remember it was back in February 2020. We did a show with Rebecca Dallimore, and she is the corporate liaison officer for Seed Madagascar, and they are the oversight group for the Stitch St. Luce Women's Cooperative, which is a business, a self-sustaining business in Madagascar, where these women make little bracelets and little purses and makeup bags and those kinds of things, and then sell them on Etsy. And it's their way of generating income, and it all comes out of the Seed Madagascar operation. And Rebecca is our contact, and she wrote to me yesterday to, well, here, I'll read what she said, just so that I wanted to write, because since the airing of the show, we've received quite a few donations of threads and embroidery equipment from your listeners and viewers. In particular, you may remember that Millie Perlman, who has taken charge of the collection of supplies from various Embroiderers Guild chapters. As the pandemic hit the cooperative, this was honestly a lifeline to the women who are unable to access materials at their local markets nor afford to do so. And the cooperative hit that. And so she's attached a couple of images, and there's one on your screen, I'll show you the other one in a second, taken on quite an old phone, I'm afraid, of some of the senior members of the cooperative receiving and distributing threads. They were absolutely thrilled. So you can see what we generated for them. And then she says, I see you're still using your platform to support great causes with your inclusion of helping Ukrainians this week, which is wonderful to see. So essentially I write with great thanks for featuring Stitch. They just refer to it as Stitch St. Luce, on your show, and to share the good news with you. And so it had an impact, sending DMC floss and needles down to them, or to Rebecca, and then it's best it goes to Rebecca in the UK, and then they ship it all down there. That way, there's a lot of corruption in the supply chain, so that way it gets to the people rather than veering off to other places. So we send to them. So it was really nice to hear from her, and she's going to come back and do a show with us later in the year when things get a little further along. And I looked at the Seed Madagascar website just today, and there was the opening panel talked about famine in Madagascar, and that people were needing help there. So you might check that out if you're so inclined to help out there. So many places to help out these days, sadly, but you might check that out. But anyway, we made a difference for these ladies down in Madagascar, down over wherever it is. And so I said to Rebecca, I said, now if I bring this up, there's going to be some people interested in sending more material, and they'll always take it. And so I updated the listing, the February 2, 2020 show. That's on wetalkfiber.com. I updated the mailing information there, and then I put it here on the screen for you. And so you can send, write this down, and I'll put this in the show notes with tonight's video. Oh, actually, I already did. I'm really organized. I already did, so it's all there.
job.
Yeah. Look at that. Isn't that amazing?
It makes
Yeah, and you can be sarcastic. It's okay, Beth.
yeah. Sorry.
It's quite all right. I can take it.
That's right.
So this is where you send stuff. Now, if you want, I would be happy to be a collection point, and just write to me, Gary at wetalkfiber.com, and I'll send you my home address. I'm not going to post it on a screen, but I'll send you my home address. If you would like, rather than dealing with the international things, if you would like to send a donation of threads and needles or needles to me at the house here, then we will package it all up and send it to Rebecca. So you can send directly, you can get your groups together and collect and send, or if individually you just say, hey, take care of the international stuff for me, send it here, just email me and I'll send you my address. Marga's right skilled at doing international things. So anyway, if you send, and these directions are on the video for the podcast, make sure you follow these instructions precisely, where you mark the parcel as a gift, the value at less than $15, regardless of what you put in there, embroidery threads, customs form, and the post office can get you a customs form, and write your name, address, and phone number on the back of the parcel. Make sure that you follow all of that exactly, because if you don't, then it gets tied up in customs, and then the seed people end up having to make trips to pick it up, pay extra postage, do all kinds of things, and pretty soon enough money's been laid out that what you're contributing is dwarfed by all the fees and fines. So follow these directions precisely, then it will go to Rebecca just for the cost of postage, and this nonprofit organization won't get hit with additional costs. So it's there on the screen, and it's in the notes for the video on YouTube tonight. But if you want to help out, believe me, they appreciate it. The fact that 2 years later she wrote back because she really appreciated it is an indication. It also might be her nice way of saying, boy, it'd be nice if you guys would fire some more stuff at us. So, happy to do that. So either way that works for you, but if you're so inclined to help out, do so, please do so. And then for Ukrainian people, I'm working on, I wrote to one young lady about who has been, had to leave the country and sells on Etsy. And we'll try and get some names of people together that you can help out that way. I read a headline, some cool thing, where people were renting Airbnb houses in Ukraine. So they were going on Airbnb and renting houses that they had no intention of going anywhere near. Of course, you wouldn't now anyway, but basically just to generate some income for the owners of those houses. And I thought that was kind of a cool thing. So, and we're seeing more and more ways to help the Ukrainian people these days. So, and as much as we can through Fiber Talk, we will put those things out there. But down in Madagascar, apparently there's famine and there's need there too. So whatever works for you, but that's a way to help out there. So, yeah, that's all of that. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that got in tonight and got in the video for people who might want to help out, because I know we get a lot of European watchers on tomorrow. So we want to make sure that we get that out there. So now back on screen for everyone. The Beth, me, and the chair. There we go. Okay, so Kim and Susan here tonight. Kim has sent us a bunch of samplers we can look at and talk about tonight, and always fun. Last time we had just a blast talking about them. So we've got a rack of them, and a couple of them are, well, they're all unusual, but a couple of them really unique. So we'll just have at it here and talk about them. And let me go to now that thing and make sure we don't get muted. We didn't. So now I'm going to take, it's FT20, 9 through the 13th, and I'm going to take that down because you can see that's going to be in the way. We'll put it up at the end of the show. So with that, everybody can hear. There's no mutes. I think we got it. So Susan and Kim, have at it.
Okay. Well, so this is one of, and you tell me if you can't hear me well, but this is one of my favorite samplers, and you can see it's Victorian. And what's really neat about it is the brocade that frames it. And it came to me that way, and that's a silk brocade, and it's from 18, let me see if I see it on there. I can't see it too good right here, but 18. Yeah. And so the silk on that, you can see on the left-hand side there of the screen, it shatters a little bit when it gets really old. So silk kind of disintegrates, which they call it shattering, and you can see that on the brocade. So I was very concerned about taking this out of the frame, but I needed to put a better glass on it. And my framer did a great job. As you can see, the silk survived. That was my big concern because, you know, some people would look at this and say, oh, that looks like a terrible, horrible piece of curtain on that. but you know, it's actually really beautiful. And Susan brought up a point today, which I'll let her mention it, which she thinks that the framing of it meant. So
this kind of sampler, this kind of sampler with that around any kind of ribbon or lace, those were usually done for keepsakes to give to someone that you were feeling affection for, which could be a mother, a father, you know, a sibling, partner. And I actually have one that was done by a student, and she was giving it to her pastor's wife because they had helped raise her after her parents had passed. And that's where I learned a lot. But this is actually beautiful. Mine is just a very plain ribbon, nothing fancy like this.
And it's neat that she says that, because my intent with this one, if you read the first verse, favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord shall be praised. All the verses are kind of like that. They're kind of like things that you would direct a young girl to be, at least at that point in time, and even when I was a kid, to help them become a good female from that time period's perspective. So this we're going to publish for Mother's Day. We just think it's really neat, yeah, because it's things that your mother would have said to you, probably, you know. And so I love it. Like pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. I've proven that out to myself many times. My mother was so right about that.
They usually are.
Yeah, a soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. You know, they're all things that kind of proverbs, or, you know, some of them might be Bible verses, but they're all things that your mother might have said to you as a young girl that you would have kind of in your mind. And I suspect that the little girl who stitched this, I think she was 10 or 11 years old, was probably directed to do it by her, you know, her mother or another female in her life. And then, you know, maybe it was then gifted back to that woman. A lot of times it's neat, but grandmothers would take their granddaughters and they would buy the supplies for the granddaughter, and they would teach the granddaughter to stitch, and then the granddaughter would give that first sampler to her grandmother as a gift. And so this could represent something like that. But it's just, to us, it's a beautiful sampler.
Yes.
First, it hit me kind of gaudy, and then I thought about it and looked at it, and I was like, well, wait a minute, that's actually really pretty. So either the sampler changed or I changed. My taste changed, but I actually love it. So
I think one of the things is we weren't used to pink for a while with samplers because it's not a color that is used extensively. And to have that ribbon and the threads that go together, this was an opportunity for that young girl to use a color that was not used even in the Victorian era.
It's a very feminine, pretty sampler. So yeah, so this one is charted, and it should come out Mother's Day this year.
So that silk brocade then, very delicate, like don't handle it anymore and you have to, or it'll just come apart?
Mm-mm. No, and it's behind glass. And, you know, when I got it, it was in that beautiful old frame that it's still in. And I was really worried that it may fall apart, but I had to get it underneath some different glass and get some separators in there between the silk and the glass. And it survived. And it, you know, it just has that little bit of shattering over on the left. And that did happen when we were changing it from one frame to another, or from one, taking the old glass off and the old framing off and redoing it. But my framer who did that was really good and really careful. She was really worried about it too, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
She was like, I don't know, but it turned out really nice. So it
Your
kind of
fr-
shows its age. It's like a graceful lady, you know, it has a little age on it, but it just adds to the beauty and the delicacy of it.
Yeah. Your framer was probably good when he or she started, but you've made him a lot better.
You know, she did learn some things about needlework from me because I was pretty particular. I wanted to see how it was done, and we had some talks about how I wanted it done. And anyway, so it was a back and forth process. Yeah.
Pretty easy to get the colors out of this. I'm sure you weren't able to flip it over very much or even really look at the backside.
No, we did not. And you can see though the front is gorgeous. Now,
Yeah.
does it have some light damage? Maybe a little, but look how red that silk is. So not a lot, because that silk would have been faded in the sun
Right.
if it had been in the sun too much. And I can't imagine it being much brighter than it is. It's pretty bright.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's got some fading, but the colors are beautiful. And no, we did it from the front.
Beautiful.
But
I
you
like
know,
the
it's kind of
verses.
neat. Yeah, I do too. That's what I loved about it. So, and it's really nicely balanced. And the little flowers that's right there where you're kind of looking right now. I love how those leaves look kind of abstract. You know what I mean? They're just neat.
Yeah.
They have a dimension to them almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is one that you could pull a flower out here and there and make a pen disc with it, or, you know, you could use those motifs and do something else with them.
Yeah, I could see taking just each verse and making it into its own.
A drum. You could
Yeah.
wrap it around a drum, or, you know.
Yeah, lots of possibilities. Yep. All right.
And I like the vibrant colors, but that's
Me
me.
too.
I
Me
like
too.
the
Yeah. I'm glad you guys like that one. That's
Yep.
one of my favorites.
Yep, that's a good one. Okay.
So this one is English. And, you know, if you look at this one, what's unique about it, it's very old. And if you look at the very bottom of it, you'll see how delicate it is. This one's actually still on its board backer. I have not taken it off, and that's why right there. Because I'm just like, I'm going to lose some
Oh.
of this one. Yeah, you can see the board behind it, and that's very typical. And I know I'm going to lose that bottom part, and I'm tore up about it, but it's got to come off. So it is kind of delicate, and it's what, 17 something. I forget, can't see it from here right now. It's 17 something there, right there in that clover looking tree. 17 something something.
Yeah.
1720.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
We got-
old, but it's in pretty good shape. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we had a couple questions from the last one. Is there any history about the girl who stitched it? I'm thinking she's talking about Rebecca.
Not yet. I haven't done it yet. Yeah, we usually do that like right before we publish it. So we'll put in whatever we find into the book for sure.
And then Kim Reed asked, are those dragonflies? I think she was talking about the previous one. Dragonflies. I don't
I didn't see dragonflies in this.
know.
The border, I think, and Barbara Hudson's on, she can confirm it, but I think that's a honeysuckle border, or Susan's here by me too. I think that's a honeysuckle border. And then those flowers going through the middle with the pink and the kind of light pink, those are strawberries. Yeah.
I don't see any.
Those are roses on that one underneath praise. I don't see a dragonfly.
No, I don't either.
No.
Maybe it's.
But we've got one that we'll look at, maybe, that might have some bees on it. I can't remember if we put it in here or not. But
We'll get a bug in tonight sooner or later.
yeah.
All right.
It's
going
always
to the-
exciting when there's a bug on one, actually.
Well, here you go. We've got some chickens, and I'm sure inside their
Oh, wait,
chicken bellies
okay.
are some bugs.
There she is. Wait, go back down. It looked like
Okay,
there was
she's
a
got this one.
dragonfly. Sorry, I'm going back.
What? All right.
Okay.
I thought I saw something on the, see, I'm looking at both screens here, so I'm trying to watch what people are saying right by her name, or what is what people are saying. It
By
looks like
Rebecca
there's
Waddell.
something. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, let's have a
well,
look.
let me go back. Let me go back to that then.
And yes, honeysuckle border.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah,
maybe.
it is.
Good
Oh, they're
eyes,
very,
Kim.
very delicate. Yes.
Yeah, those
Right
are
there.
bugs.
There's some bugs.
Good job.
They haven't survived as well as the
They are
rest of the
beautiful, aren't they?
stitching.
And they do
Yeah.
look like dragonflies. They're not, but they're not moths. They've got 2 sets of wings. That's beautiful. Good spot.
We were just
Good eyes.
talking today because we were going through different samplers we have, and there's so many times you don't see it all, and then you find something. It's like, oh my, look at that! Oh my, look at that! We did that a lot today.
All right, dragonflies.
That's kind of
Cool.
neat. That's
It
unusual.
is.
Yeah.
Very delicate.
Okay. Now to the band sample
Okay.
here. So
Yeah,
so okay. So
go
what do
ahead.
you do? What do you do in a situation like that? You just accept the fact that
just-
you're just going to lose it, or
Yeah, there's not a lot you can do. So really, the most important thing is to save what we can. So I've just got to work up the, the courage to take it off that board, because I've had it for several years and I haven't taken it off the board. And it's not gotten any better, even though it's been in the dark. So, I just have to take it off and try to do it very delicately down there. I'll probably lay it on another piece of linen, and then I might take some very tiny, same color as the linen, silk thread, and try to tack it on to preserve what's there.
It's there.
Yeah, it's going to look kind of, bad at the bottom no matter what I do. The only thing you could do would be to do something very, very untoward, which I would never do. But you could put some interfacing on the back, and that would be horrible because that's glue. So we won't do that. We'll just lay it on a piece of probably linen rather than muslin, and tack it a little bit down there where we can, and it'll just be what it'll be.
that's got to be really frustrating to get those. And there's so many of them are just nailed to boards, or you can tell were nailed to a board. But in terms of keeping them, that's just got to be frustrating to have those edges all chewed up like that.
I've had a ton of them that have came off boards, and honestly, I'd rather have it nailed to a board than glued to a backboard. And we've had a few come in like that have just been horrendous, because you definitely can't get all that glue and paper off, and it's bad. So the nail holes you can usually cover up, but like this band sampler where they put it on there right at the bottom, it's like, erg. But
Yeah.
and that's the damage that wood does. And so, as we talk through some of these, and I know we've said it before, wood and sun are your 2 worst things for your antiques. The sun is just as damaging as the wood, to be quite honest. So you need to make sure that they're either kept in a reasonably dark room, or that you put some UV protected glass on them, some museum quality glass. And you really have to get them off the wood if they're on wood. And the other thing that people don't always notice is sometimes framers from the 1970s, 60s, and 50s in there, the glass may be sitting right on top of your linen, and that's terrible, because then the linen can't breathe. And you'll end up taking and this happens when you buy samplers. It's happened to Susan.
Yep.
You take it apart, and your sampler basically comes off on the glass. It just sticks to the glass.
You lose your
Ooh.
stitching. I lost a verse a long time ago, and that's when I learned to always take pictures before I take it apart. The verse was gone. It was on the glass, and you couldn't figure it out on the glass.
Oh, that must have been sickening.
It was, because I bought it for the verse because it was about an instructor. And I learned my lesson. That's what it's all about, taking them apart. You learn so much.
All right, and Kim wants to know, will this one be reproduced?
This one's already been charted, and we'll probably put it out this year. I'm really we're trying to hit one a month this year, because it's our 5th birthday year. So we've got 2 for sure. One that's we've already shown in our Friday chats, that's coming out as soon as it comes back from the printer, and one that's coming up right behind it. And then you saw the one for Mother's Day. And so Mabel Took's coming out this year, which you've already seen her, so I didn't put her in here. But if we own it, we'll almost always will be charting it. There's only 2 that I've shown you guys in some of the other broadcasts that had tons and tons of embroidery in it. And I'm not sure we'll chart those because I don't know that anybody would want to stitch them. But eventually we'll probably circle around to them and chart them with an optional cross stitch in place of the embroidery if people would not want to do the embroidery. But yeah.
So
So
this
yes,
one,
so
this one, yeah. Let's talk about this one here.
yeah, so this one's kind of neat. It's really old, so you saw it's from the 1700s. It's got a lot of blue, but you see the top band is dogs, little pups, and you know, then you've got some Bargello work in there, I believe, and then you've got some eyelets, and you come on down, and you've got you know, some flowers, but then you've got this row of chickens with bugs in their bellies, and then if you come all the way down, you've got, I believe, you've got some ducks down there. I might be wrong. Nope, crowns. Yeah, what's at the very bottom? Other kind of plant looking things. So this one, it's possible that this one was stitched by a male because you see how different it is. It's not your typical florally verse kind of thing, and the chickens and the dogs and the lots of blues in it, browns, kind of make you wonder if this wasn't stitched by a male. And I don't know. I mean, it was the 1700s. I really don't know. What do you think, Susan? Would they have done that back then or not?
Yes, because the colors, especially the blue and the brown, when you are lucky enough to find one that's done by a male, they do tend to use not the color palettes the same as we're used to. And I really think that that's probably a really good lead. It's a shame we can't, you know, find anything on there that I mean, I look at the letters that are different colors and red, those meant something to him, but we don't know what they meant. You know, it could be family, could have been his instructor. There's lots of reasons for letters being different colors, but I agree that it definitely has the feel that a gentleman could have done it, or a young boy.
The other thing that I think is kind of interesting about this is if you come further down, you see this S. You see this underneath right there above
Right
the
there?
green flowers. Yeah, that looks Dutch.
Mhm.
You see that on a lot of Dutch samplers, and that's very curious to me. So I don't know. I might have to talk to my Dutch friends and see what they think about that, because that's something that I've really only seen on Dutch samplers. I might be wrong. I mean, Barbara's
No,
online too.
I mean,
She may have
Barbara
seen
might
it some
know
other
too,
places, but
mine are all Dutch that it's on. And, you know, things travel. That's the other
yeah,
thing.
that's what I'm thinking, because the sampler itself doesn't make me think Dutch, but it could be. It's the right kind of linen, but it's on that backboard, which is not something that typically happened to Dutch samplers. They wouldn't have been nailed on a board like that, and that one's clearly been on that board a very, very long time. So I don't think it's necessarily Dutch, but it has that.
Just that one
Yeah,
section.
that one line in it that made me wonder.
The Dutch really protected and revered their samplers, and very few of them do you find unless someone got them later on and then of course mounted them incorrectly. But they would put them and keep them in their cupboards and on their walls, and they had a different respect than a lot of other countries for their embroidery.
But I
Okay,
think
here,
the chickens
Barbara
are great
Hudson.
with all the different colors.
Barbara Hudson
what
had a little
Barbara
comment.
said. Okay.
The S decorative net row comes from Egypt, Coptic
Oh,
embroidery,
cool.
thousands of years
Okay.
old.
Don't have
Interesting.
any- yeah, I don't have anything from that. Yes.
Okay.
Neat.
And yeah, I love it with the chickens or roosters. Someone's saying, "Are they roosters? Are they roosters?" And then the dogs
Yeah.
on the top row.
This, what, just 6-8 inches wide?
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Yeah.
High count.
And hem
linen.
stitched.
Yes. It might just be turned, actually.
Okay.
It's not got a
All right.
fancy hem. I think it might just be turned under.
Yeah, rules,
Okay.
ma'am, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. Neat. Okay.
Very nice.
This one was just pretty, honestly. we like the hearts on it, and the bright colors of it. Clearly, a happy little girl stitched it, and it was just fun. It's got a few initials here and there. I haven't done any research on it yet. It's pretty neat in my collection, but 1826 Elspat. It's a neat name. Nichols. It's interesting. I don't know if it's English or Scottish, but it's really pretty.
It looks like she's got family member initials in here.
Yeah, all the ends,
All the
because her
ends.
name is Elspat, and then the last name is Nichols, so it makes sense. She's got a lot of ends in there, but it's just a really sweet little sampler, I thought.
Right. And the
WB
dark
up
W
there.
is, yeah, the big dark W is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and all those hearts, just neat. Yeah, if we hadn't came out with the Bristol for Valentine's Day, it might have been this one, but we'll
Yeah,
find
I
another
was just
reason to
gonna
bring
say,
this one
yeah,
out.
this is Valentine if I ever saw one. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
neat. All right.
I love the
Okay, now
colors, all
this
the
one,
bright ones.
exactly.
ahead.
This is one of my favorite samplers because of the colors. So I just really love these fall colors and those little striped animals, and I just love this one.
We have a bug too.
Yeah, it's got a bee on it. It's it's just a really, I've not seen another one quite like this. And when I saw it, I was desperate for it. I'll be honest. I was like, oh, I have to have that. And I just love it. There's nothing too fine about it. It's just a really beautiful colors to me because I'm a fall person. I love all the fall colors.
It looks like it's got like several little animals on it.
Yeah.
One up by the
yeah.
alphabet, and then those two at the bottom, and then birds.
Birds.
Yeah. I think one of those is a lion on the left with the big
Yeah.
bug eyes and the forky tail. But
Now, in situations when you're reproducing, like right here where the stitching appears to be missing, you just have to make your best guess and fill it in. I mean, you can tell from the holes where stitches were, but kind of gets to
Right,
be a
so-
guessing, educated guess game.
we use a really high magnification, and we can see, sometimes we can get all the way down, most of the time, we can get down to the fibers. And every once in a while, where you can tell there was a stitch, you can see a little wisp of fiber there.
Oh,
Every once in a while. So sometimes you can tell what was there, and also there's the back, and sometimes you can't. And if you can't, you may, if you can really tell what it was, we'll try to fill it in, and we might put a note in there that, we believe this is what was in the spot. But if it's a big blank spot, we wouldn't do that. But
Yeah, I agree because that's what I have done once. I just had no indication and I left it empty. And that's part of what these are about. That happens.
yeah, I really like this one though.
yep.
Looks like you.
This is slated
the-
to come out one of the months this year then?
Yeah, this looks like September.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be a great one for September.
Yeah, you still want to have your bee out there. They're still out and about. And
The fall flowers going, fall colors. Yeah, I like that.
Good stuff.
But I'm
that's a
going to
little
guess
bird's eye
counting that
maple
border.
frame too. Yeah, yeah. But you can see the selvage on it too. See how much they
Oh.
or no, actually that's just the edge of the sampler. That's not the selvage. So it's not in its frame very well, which is actually good. But it's in that pretty little bird's eye maple frame. So that's the frame that one came in. And I try to do that. If I can save the frame and just replace the glass, I try to do that. If the frame's worth keeping. If it doesn't, if it's not like a 1800 sampler in a 1975 frame, if it's a clearly an appropriate frame, I've been known to divest of those in a heartbeat. But
This is going to be one of those it depends questions, but Do you get a sense sometimes that they're in the original frame, or usually you can tell that they've been replaced?
You can usually tell if it's original or if it's been replaced, and that one is original. Once it went into a frame, it went into that frame. That one may not have been in a frame originally, and that's true of a lot of them. They weren't in frames, and then they ended up in frames. But now when you get one that has a wood backer to it, that is original. And they were usually, and you'll see it in one of the ones that I sent you, the one that's on Penelope canvas. You can see where it was tacked to a wood, basically a wood slate frame, which was a big open square, and they would have nailed it to that, the canvas to that, or the linen to that, and stitched it, and it stayed there. And so you get these big dark nail holes all the way around the sampler. But and I've gotten a lot like that have been on there. You have to get that off the wood. Some people don't, but it's going to continue the acid in that wood will eat through the linen eventually.
Okay, and what's the name of the stitcher on this one? Do you know? Is her name?
It has one. I can't. Sarah.
It's pretty weak.
Yeah, I can't see it right there. Let's see if I can see it in my picture. I can't see it. I don't remember it, and I don't have it with me. I'm sorry.
So that'll be a surprise in the fall, then, who stitched it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Annette likes it. She says it's got roses and corner roses and a lion, so she's in.
Yeah, it's a pretty one. But you could stitch that one today on something like Russian tea cake and put it in a bird's eye maple frame, and it would look just as beautiful and ancient. It would look like it was,
It'd be stunning, actually.
Yeah, this is going to be a beautiful one stitched.
I'm a September birthday, so I'm waiting.
There you go. Yeah.
And that Russian tea cake is lovely, lovely fabric.
Yeah, it really, and honestly, Susan used it to stitch a model for something that's coming out later, and it looks so similar to the antique because she stitched it in hand. So the linen is nice and soft. It looks like an antique. It's really neat how that linen softened up just by the touch of the human hand, which I know that's going to flip a lot of people out, but linen and cotton respond to human touch, and they soften up, and they just get more beautiful with time.
We need to make a list of linens that if you bought a yard of them, and Russian tea cake would be one of them, buy a yard of them, and you would have linen for a vast majority of samplers. Because there's ones that just come up all the time.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Corn tassel's another one because, and especially the legacy linens, which those are both legacy linen. They are solid dyes. They're not over dyed, which is kind of nice, but they are really wide. So a yard, for example, of a legacy linen, those ones anyway, are 36 inches by 70 inches. It's huge.
And the color really matches so many of the vintage samplers. Again, having ours out today with the one that's the new version of the old one, it's a really good match. A whole wall done on that. That's the idea. I like it.
Oh, okay. Oh, I like that idea. I just need time.
All right.
Okay, so Gary,
Yeah.
you're on, buddy. Tell us what's special about this one. This one's just for you.
This is the Penelope one.
It is.
It's on Penelope canvas, and you can see right in here. This is so cool because what was last week's guest, Beth?
I think so.
I think so. I lose
Yes.
track.
Marie Renee Otis.
Yes, who stitches on Penelope, but you can see right in here the advantage of Penelope canvas, that you can do so much, like right at here, let me get that, right at the bottom of this thing here, if this would expand out, it won't, there it goes. So you can see the power of this canvas in terms of what you can do. It's amazing.
I thought it was neat on this one because this stitcher used it to add dimension and texture. It's not just detail, because Penelope canvas And for those of you who are wondering what we're talking about, Penelope canvas, it has a big weave and a little weave to it. You know what I mean? Like there's a smaller square inside the bigger square in a way. You know, it's hard for me to describe it. It's an interwoven canvas, but Susan, you could probably
Yep.
describe it better than me. But
Well, in the 70s, we used it a lot. People think of it as a needlepoint medium, but that's not true. It's a double mesh canvas, and you can get really fine detail. You know how on well, Lavender and Lace came out with the faces over one cross-stitched. You can do that on Penelope canvas, and it's very historical. They call it a canvas. It's a cotton, and it really stitches nicely. And especially if you're at a point where maybe you're having a little trouble doing a finer a finer linen over one, this is a great alternative.
yeah, and this is what 1824 or something. This is 1800. So it's just neat. Like I was looking at that house, and she really used it to create texture and dimension, and I thought that was just so cool. Because I remember when you were talking about it before, you know, well, the person that you interviewed said it's not a pretty canvas, it's not a pretty ground, and you do it for full coverage. Well, there's a little truth there. I mean, you can look at this and it looks a little clunky, but if you step back from it and look at it, it gives it a beautiful texture and detail, and it's a really beautiful sampler, even on Penelope canvas. And I can see why she used it, you know.
Right.
But
It
'cause
allows movement.
Just look at what happens with that house because of the way she used the canvas to advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Whole,
Yeah,
whole different feel.
It's great for texture.
it's not something you would naturally think about, though, because you do think about this for needlepoint and for getting to detail. It's not, people don't these days always think about it for texture and dimension. It's more. So I just thought it was neat. 1856. Okay, there we go. But I just thought it was neat like that. And this is the one that's got the nail holes around it. And you can see where the color's a little different. You see how tight it was stretched. But you can kind of see where the frame was on this too, when you look at the edges and stuff, and what it's done. See that lower corner down there? They had glue on that at some point.
Yeah.
It's got a nice crusty covering on it, and I'm like, that's not okay. But you can tell that this, you know, you can tell which parts were exposed and which weren't, I guess I'd say. But it's really pretty and vibrant. Look how vibrant it is.
Yeah.
And neat.
It
Border
is.
beautiful.
And I like that bottom border with the little crosses in there. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
We can
really
say
nice
that
little border.
Penelope will not hide if you carry your threads. Penelope
No.
will not hide them.
I was going to say it, but I didn't.
No, it will not hide them. So do so at your
No.
own risk.
That's something I would have done.
Is this one done with wool or cotton or silk, or you don't remember?
I can't remember. I don't remember, to be
Okay.
honest. If it's wool, it's probably wool, but I don't remember. It's funny. I took all these pictures for you in a light box, and I don't know if that helped or hurt, but I was trying to get them done, and I don't remember.
Yeah.
and Ruthie's commenting that looks like a great canvas for 1/4 and 3/4 stitches, and I think she's right.
Yes, it is.
That's
Yeah, that's
exactly
exactly
right.
right. That's why you can get really good detail on faces and stuff like that with it.
Yeah,
Is it available? Can you still get it, Kim? Do you know?
Yeah, I've got some.
Oh, do you?
I've
Okay.
got some, that got given to me. I'm pretty sure you can still get it. In fact,
Yeah,
I
you
actually
can.
searched for it online and it popped up. I don't have it, but I can get it. I mean, I've got some that was given to me that I would give away, but because I don't use it. But you can, as a purchaser, you can buy it either as a shop or as an individual. There are places to order it.
I think one of the things that people have in their mind as well, again, you go back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and you would buy needlepoint canvases that the design was pre-stitched on this, and then all you did was the background. And for most of us, that's not what we want to do. We want to do the pretty part. And so that kind of gave Penelope a bad rap as well.
Yeah, I remember those, and my reaction was, "Hey, you just took the fun out of it. You know, do the
That's right.
do the background. I'll do the fun. Yeah, yeah. What am I paying for here?"
Mhm. Somebody
Yeah.
else had the
Right.
fun.
But that used to be pretty much, especially in needlepoint. I mean, it was the
Mhm.
common canvas, wasn't it?
Yes. The other canvas, there were two kinds. They were interwoven, or they were like, we call it cement together. It was glued together. And even if you'd go on a finer count, you couldn't get the look that you would get with this. It was really fun. I actually enjoyed designing and teaching on it. Flame work, Florentine work, Bargello, whatever you want to call it. You really can get some dimension on this because of the two mesh canvas.
If we talk about it
Yeah,
long
that's
enough,
right.
we'll bring it back. We'll make it popular. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and there are other samplers that are on Penelope canvas. A lot of collectors stay away from it, but I don't even know that when I bought this, I knew it was on Penelope canvas. I don't think I did, but it doesn't bother me. It's quite beautiful in person. So,
And somebody
Mhm.
stitched it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
get you definitely get a different look, a very distinctive look. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Neat stuff. So glad that came up so soon after we talked about it with Marie Renee.
Yeah, well, I was going to surprise you with it and not mention it, and I gave you a day, and then I was like, so did you notice the one on Penelope canvas? Because I had just listened to your show, and I was like, oh,
Oh.
we're definitely doing this one.
Well, when I
But-
was
Oh,
setting
yeah.
up the photos, boy, that really has a unique look to it. But I was in a hurry and I just needed to
Oh,
get
I
it set
know,
up.
yeah.
And
That's my life too.
yeah.
I'm always racing, but
But yeah, I mean, you just take that and compare that. I mean, there's a very distinctive look to the thing.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is. I liked it before I knew it was Penelope. I thought it was a beautiful little sampler.
Okay, so when this is chartered, are we going to have a Penelope option? Probably not.
Why
huh?
not? If you want
Okay.
to, sure. But I will tell you this: it might be hard to get the look of that house without Penelope canvas.
Exactly.
Because that's how she made it look like bricks, was how she did those stitches on the Penelope canvas.
Yeah.
So it probably is not going to look quite the same not being stitched on Penelope. But
The only thing you could do, and it wouldn't be the same, is try to find a stitch that sort of replicated it. But yeah, you really can't get that look.
that's the one place on that sampler I would say that if you want it to look like that, it has to be Penelope.
Mhm.
Well, I have to do this one because I still owe myself for the one I got in Austria and threw away. So,
Uh-oh.
man, that was stupid. That was just stupid. Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
This thing. Oh, I love
Okay.
this thing.
Okay. I love it.
Whoops.
A beautiful Bristol.
This was when I saw
Thank
this.
you. I
When I
appreciate
saw this,
that.
I almost fired it at you, Beth, because I knew you. Just,
I've been watching on Friday night.
oh, okay.
Yeah, we premiered this one on Friday. Well, I guess we did it on a Monday, but we talked
Yeah.
about it a lot all month during February. This is what the Red February was kind of leading up to. So everything that's on the Red February freebie, except for the squirrel, came off this sampler. And so this one is in my collection, and we wanted to show people that if you're not ready to stitch the whole thing, you can stitch, just use your bands, just like you're doing on your sampler that you're doing, Gary.
Yep.
Just pull off the bands that you want. And so we just pulled off some bands that we thought were really pretty and did a few other things with it. And we gave some history around Bristol's during the month of February. And lots of people, I think, enjoyed that, which was kind of neat for us. But this one is just at the printer, and, we're waiting on her to come out from the printer before we put her up for order. So this will be out by next week for sure. I would put it up for pre-order today, but I don't know exactly what the price is going to be till it gets through the print process. But you can tell that she picked out a little bit of the wording around the orphanage. So I think that it said New Wing Orphan House or something like that. I think Claudia told me she thought this was, I forget which house she told me she thought it was, but it was distinctive in some way. I want to say 13 or something like that, but I might be wrong. We'll have that, information for you too, but it's neat. So Alice Ellen Usher actually went into the orphanage with her sister. Alice was 3 when she went in, and her sister was, I think, 13. And they came from a big family, and it's kind of a sad story. The mother died 3 or 4 years earlier, and then the father died, but he kept all of these kids. There were 13 kids, and so he
Whoa.
kept all of these kids, and of course some of them were adult by that point, and tried to take care of them up until the day that he died. And so the older siblings just weren't able to keep them all, and so these were the youngest girls, and I don't know exactly what happened to the boys. I think they went with the siblings. But there's a really poignant letter that I read to the group on Fridays last month, where a gentleman wrote to Mr. Mueller and pleaded for his help to take these young ones in, which obviously they did. And so it's really neat. And they both went, so this one is Alice Ellen Usher, but she had a sister named Ruth Usher, and that was the older girl. And so they both went into service, and we were able to see them. And Alice lived to be about 80 years old. And I saw one record that looked like she might have gotten married, but I can't say for sure that was her. And she still was on her own when she passed away, and there was never any record of her having children. Her brother had some children and named them after Ruth and Alice. And so it gets a little confusing when you start looking through there, and you have to be real careful because, you see some tombstones and other things, but they're not actually her, they're of the others. And so anyway, it was fun to research it, and it was really interesting to look through all the records that the orphanage kept on the children, and all the information that was required to get them in there. But the sampler itself is very beautiful. I like it. I hope you guys will like it.
I love these
It's
because
magnificent.
yeah, I love these because they serve even today as a sampler for us, because you can just take any one of those pieces and put it into another project and use it as a border or a separator, or there's just so much you can take out of these things, and they're all these little borders are really relatively simple to stitch, and there's such a treasure trove of options that you can use elsewhere.
They're a great reference too for the alphabets and the numbers to document your pieces. It's kind of like what an array of choices you have when you purchase one of these charted samplers, because we should all be doing that. But just look at all those alphabets on there.
Yeah, and I thought this one was neat because of the Roman numerals that it had on there, and then also the regular numbers, but how some of them are kind of curved and just really pretty. It's just got a lot of choices on it, a lot of pretty things on it, and and I'm also encouraging people to kind of use it as a meditative stitch, because it is really big. Use it as a meditative stitch, and think about even stitching it in a different color or on a different linen if you're going to use red, and do something that you really enjoy. Like, you don't have to be married to I'd say the historicity of it. I mean, you don't have to have it look exactly like it did. You can interpret this, and that's kind of what I was trying to show people with Red February. You can interpret this to be really special to you. And on mine that I did for Red February, you see all the initials that she used on there. I've actually added a lot of initials to mine, and I have one friend that's passed away now, and I put hers in blue because she loved blue. And I've got another one that I'm going to put on there in a different color. But it was kind of neat how these girls personalized them that way with the initials of their friends or their family, or the bed numbers of their friends in the orphanage. I don't think there's any bed numbers on this one. It's all initials, but.
Is there anything that you guys know about that Bible thing? Because it's on just about every one in the Bristol samplers. Is there something about that that everybody had to put it in, or what? It's
because it was Mr. Mueller, and so and I might be saying that wrong, Mueller, but it is because of his Christian beliefs, and he founded the orphanage based on his Christian faith, and he was kind of a latecomer to the Christian faith. He had a very interesting life before that, and he really had a lot of faith in believing that God would provide, and so you see that Bible on those samplers because it was such an important part of the mission of the orphanage and of their belief system.
He was a scoundrel before he found
That's what
his wife.
that's what they said when they gave us a talk
Yeah.
there. They were like, oh, he was kind of, and it was funny. It was a gentleman who's no longer alive, but he was giving a great talk, and he said, oh yeah, he was just kind of a scoundrel before, he became a Christian. So it's kind of, he was a ladies' man, I think, a little bit. But,
Oh, a lot of things.
yeah, but and I don't know. I may be speaking out of turn. There's a lot of books out there about him that you can read, but but that Bible is very central to his Christian beliefs.
Yeah, but his story, once he started the orphanage and changed his beliefs, though, the good he did for so many.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just amazing. I mean, these kids had nowhere to go. They would have gone into workhouses, which was basically a death sentence. Because they really there were no children's rights, and they just really worked them until they died. Most of them never came out. And so the fact that he established these orphanages was just unbelievable. And then if you really look at the documentation around the orphanages and how they took care of them, it wasn't like today where you have a board of directors and you have all these people who provide, contributions for it. And you've got this machine behind it that just works everybody to make sure that you have money coming in to feed everybody. There was none of that. It was a man and his wife and their faith in God and their desire to take care of these children. And that was it.
Mhm.
And then it was the random knock on the door when they sat down to eat and there was not enough food of a baker who had a lot of leftover bread all of a sudden, and happened to be at dinner time, or it was somebody who came over and had a lot of milk that they wanted to donate. I mean, that's the way these children were provided for. It was just truly miraculous in so many ways, and it was a testament to their faith.
He didn't ask for any of that. He just asked God to help the children be cared for.
God will provide.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And the other thing I found interesting about Mr. Mueller was he kept meticulous records.
Oh,
So
Oh, yeah.
he kept records of not only the money he had coming in, but how he spent it. But he also kept records of all these kids. They weren't just numbers going through. And that was the other. They were people. They were real people to him.
They were, and they were very important to him. And some of the documentation that they had to provide before he would take them in, there had to be 1 to 2 people on record who provided written documentation that they would accept them back if for any reason they weren't allowed to stay. And it could be any reason. It didn't matter. It basically stated that these people agreed that they would accept the child back. And so, he made sure that there was a document of everything that they brought into the orphanage. They had their birth certificates. Like, we've got the birth certificates of both of these girls. That you knew who their parents were. There's a copy of the marriage license for the parents. It was interesting, the records that they still have from, these kids that were admitted in 1865 to this orphanage. So
that was a whole new concept that he did, because up until that time, that wasn't anything that was even talked about. So he started that, and to this day, any place that's reputable has carried it on. So he had another legacy in doing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the great stories, really is.
Right. Well, Kim, I want to ask you, because you have bittersweet berry, which is kind of an orange color. I thought, what if you did this Bristol on something that's a really bright orange.
Mm-hmm.
But I did it with like it would look Halloweeny, I guess, if you did a gray. But I don't know. It just, you were talking about doing something different, and I was like, oh, look, she's got that bittersweet there.
Yeah,
She's got
it depends on the, you have to kind of lay it on there and see. I'll pull some out and see what they look like for this Friday. But yeah, that's the beauty of playing with the threads, is to see because the thread will change colors on the linen, and the linen changes colors with the thread. So,
Right.
It could be very beautiful, the right gray on that, because I was thinking gray when you said that. I think the right gray would be really beautiful.
Well, Kim, just
Lots
for
of options.
Kim, for people who don't know, what time is your Friday show?
7:00 Eastern time, so it's an hour before this one, if depending on your time zone. So it's 7:00 Eastern time, so New York time. And we just chat for about 45 minutes. It's not a long show. And it's, so far it's been me just kind of rambling on and, showing some things and talking about different options. But February was really about Red February leading up to this. March, we have a little stitch along because it's our birthday month on the 17th, where our brick and mortar is 5 years old. So we have been stitching the 17th from Hands On Design as the stitch along for March. And, we'll show the finishing on that. So I don't know how long we'll do it. We'll do it till people get tired of it or just something bigger happens. But we've definitely got March and maybe even April coming up for it.
Okay, and they can get that on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's YouTube Live. And so just like your stuff, if they subscribe to our channel for Sassy Jack Stitchery, you'll get notification if you click on the bell. And if you're looking for it, you do have to look under the live videos if you're just going out there to look. But I'll usually post the link on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
All right. And
subscribe, folks. It'll help you immensely. Just
yes. And Sarah had a question. Is there a definitive biography about George Mueller?
There are several out there. I don't know about definitive, but
they had the little
I have one in my
sold right there.
Yeah, they've got one that the George Mueller Charitable Trust put out, and they actually sent me some information which I can share as well. But you could go out there and look up the George Mueller Charitable Trust, and you can see what they reference, because that would be for sure and certain accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember that one.
We got to move along.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's okay. We just got to keep moving here.
Okay, so this is one of my Dutch ones, and I really love this one. And this one I thought was kind of neat because of those little kind of ribbony looking bands on the left over there. That has some indication that it could be a marking influence on the sampler. And Susan's kind of a expert on that more than me, so I thought I'd let her talk about those ribbons. But it's got a lot of Dutch motifs in it. It's just a really neat one, and I like the colors of it. Jacob's got a Groningen sampler that's out right now that has those two men carrying grapes on it, and those are biblical figures. I want to say Jacob and Caleb, but I might be wrong. But it's the two folks that when they were in the Promised Land and they were trying to, or they were on their way to the Promised Land. I'm going to mutilate my Bible story here, but anyway, it's a biblical reference there. They're actually carrying a harvest back, but from the Promised Land.
The little bands that are up in the corner are an indication that there was an influence from the Isle of Markham, because they had all of their ribbons that the women would wear. And there's a whole history on it. Gary, when you were in my room in St. Charles, you actually picked up that book that I had done on Helena's ribbons. Thank you. And those are little snippets. And usually when they were learned or taught, the young girls could use a couple colors. But afterwards, when they were actually attached to their specific bonnets, they were in black. And so anything that has something like this on it, many, many times there's some influence that's come over from the Isle of Markham, which is not an island anymore, but obviously at that time it was. Every one of their ribbons and those motifs have a specific meaning, which was really exciting for me to investigate and to put in that specific leaflet.
I said Jacob and Caleb. It's Joshua and Caleb. I just checked myself.
I actually knew, but I didn't want to interfere.
I knew it sounded wrong.
She was close, 50-50.
Yeah, so this one is, it's just a neat one. It's not incredibly symmetrical, but it's got some neat motifs on it. Like I like those flowers, and that's a dovecot there with all the little birdies around it, and a little woman underneath it, and a little man underneath her. I love how the Dutch samplers have all these little people in it, and the more you look, the more little people you see. And you can tell they kind of just turned the sampler around and stitched in different directions.
I know, because when I first looked at it, I thought I had it twisted the wrong way. And then I went to rotate it, and now the letters are on the sides. So
Yeah.
Sometimes if you look at them, you can see a big difference in the stitching, and that's because more than one person actually stitched on them.
no,
Fun.
you do your
And you have
stitching
to
this
love
way,
how when
and-
they just ran out of color, they just picked up another one, going
Yeah.
along the bottom there. They just
yeah.
kept on.
Right.
But
That to me, that when you see that stuff, it just gives the personality to it. You can just see these kids just whatever. Just give me that thread.
All of them. Oh, this will look nice next. I'll just try
Yeah.
this one.
Yep.
And any which way. I love all the motifs going all the different directions.
Yep.
I think that's fun.
Looks like the ground is pretty thin.
no, not on this one. It's pretty sturdy.
Oh.
I do have another one that I don't think I sent you a picture of that's really gauzy. This one's kind of dark. It's a little more dirty than some of them because, a lot of these Dutch ones were never in frames, and this is no exception to that. It was just out and about. And so this one's got a little more dirt on it, a little browner. But, yeah, it's not thin. It's pretty thick.
Okay.
It's not gauzy at all.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of their samplers are on a thicker weave.
Yeah, most of them are. And once in a while, you get a really gauzy one. I've got like 2 or 3 that are really gauzy. You can see through them literally. It's wild.
That's unusual too.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one was just fun. I just liked it. So, you can tell the little kid had fun with it. Bunch of eyelets,
17, 18 though.
little hearts. Yeah, it's old. So just a real pretty little sampler.
But the
Oh, the
color's
borders.
really,
I like-
really rich.
I think it might be Scottish. What do you think, Susan?
It has that look to it. Again, if it's in wool, for sure, we could almost guarantee it was Scottish, but it definitely has the color palette that they like to use, and the setup is similar to a lot of the Scottish samplers. I like my Netherlands and Dutch, as we call them, but I like the Scottish ones
Yeah,
too.
yeah. But just a fun one, and it'd be fun to stitch with all those colors. But you can, it's like a box of crayons. It's
Yeah.
neat.
That's a good reference. I like that.
Right. It is. All the
Yeah.
bright colors. And it just like, woohoo, let's try this one next.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But how much fun would that be to have on your craft room wall? It's just happy, just beautiful colors.
Right. Right.
That's a good one. All right, gonna move along.
Yeah.
This one
Okay.
intrigues me.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yes.
this is a simple sewing sampler, and it's German. You can see it's got some German writing at the top of it, not writing, but stitching words. And I think this one came from Lorraine Mootz's collection. I think it's got a little white tag over on the edge that she put on hers, and I bought it from her. But it was made as basically a resume. Yeah,
That's the
that's
tag.
her tag.
She tags them all.
I left it on there. Yeah. So I wish I had done that to everyone I'd ever bought.
Me too.
Know a little bit more about them. But it's basically a resume. And so this was, what did it say? What year was it, Gary, over on the right hand side? 1896. It's an early one because you see a lot of these from the 1920s or so. But it's basically a seamstress's resume. And Susan, I'll let you talk a little bit more about that because this is kind of your area of expertise.
Yeah, I really enjoy these a lot. Most of these, besides being the resume, were something that was done with a young, almost always woman, not always, but almost always, that showed potential to be a seamstress. Samplers, that wasn't the thing. They would learn their motifs, and depending on if they went to work for someone that, a lot of those rich women did not stitch. They had someone in their home that stitched, and you may have already talked about this before, but this kind of a sampler, this girl showed potential that she could definitely be a seamstress. And so she was taught this kind of array of skills, and definitely the marking, that always is the beginning. And then they go to pleating, and it's just endless what you can find in these. I really like them, even though they weren't revered. You can see they weren't actually
Yeah.
loved and cared for.
That's thread weaving in there. I mean,
Yeah.
the person that stitched this was a great
She
stitcher.
was gifted. And I mean, they were not saved, actually. I mean, that there are some around, and they're finding more of them, which is kind of fun, especially for somebody like me that likes them. But you think about walking in and showing this to someone to work, to feed yourself, or if you had a family. They were really, really important. Samplers we love, they're gorgeous, they have different reasons, but this was a survival thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But her work is really good. I don't know how it looks on your screen, but this one was hard to get a good picture of, but it's pretty dirty, and some of the stitches are pulled and stuff on it. But when you look at it in person, I mean, the work is just excellent. If it's not been disturbed by time, you know, and it's neat because if you look down underneath this, you see these rows of look like buttonhole stitches. That was to show how good she was at doing that, you know, to
Yeah.
make them all the same.
Yep, to get-
Right.
Yeah, so it was kind of neat, and they're pretty good. Like today, you hear people tease about, oh, I'm going to get that tattooed on my fingers so mine will all be the same, you know, or you take a Sharpie and you mark it on there while you're doing it, you know. And this person probably just freehanded it, and hers were very, very good.
This is like a muslin fabric is the best comparison that I can, you know, explain that they used. So it wasn't like they could see threads and holes and lines and things. It just is fascinating. And most of them are almost the same on the front and the back because, again, they wanted to show the skill that they had. They didn't leave those long tails dragging.
We had some samplers here today that have just stuff all over the back. Ancient Dutch samplers we were looking at, and we were like, look at the back, and we laughed. You know? I was like, oh, mine looks good. You know, compared to this. And this is like, whoa. You know, how much money did I pay for this? But, you know.
I got tangled in one of the threads that caught my ring. I was
Okay.
like, oh, geez.
Okay, here we go, ladies. Becky G says the marking sampler says Juliet, which means it's French for July. Why is it considered?
July
Why is
30th,
it considered?
That's
1896.
the month.
Why is it considered a German sampler?
It is German because those words are. That word is similar in German and French.
Okay.
I'm
Thank
pretty
you.
sure it's German.
In Lorraine, definitely, she's an American, and she went to, and again, you may know some of this, France, and
Maybe that is French, actually.
she was, well, I was thinking Madeline is kind of French too, but she started her international life in France, teaching American to a lot of the women that their husbands were in the service. And then she married a German man and moved to Germany, obviously. And he passed away a very long time ago. But she is really an expert on a lot of this kind of stuff. And I do, I mean, it is July, excuse me, but I do think maybe it is French.
Yeah, I take it back. I'm looking it up. It is French. So that one must have came with her from France.
Yeah,
because she did collect in France.
She
too.
started there, and she said you'd buy them for pennies.
Yeah, so good call. It's French.
Well, Beth and I today interviewed Claire Hunter she has a new book on Mary Queen of Scots coming out that on the 17th, and the show will be on the 20th. And the book talks a lot about Mary Queen of Scots, but running throughout the whole thing is this theme about how important textiles were, you know, basically a currency. And we talked quite a bit about that. And, you know, when you show these things, where basically they're, you know, this is my tool to get a job and make a living. And, you know, we just don't appreciate how important that was in, you know, several hundred years ago.
In the beginning, I just didn't understand why people even still had them, and then started studying and been fortunate enough to meet a lot of experts in Europe, and it just made a whole different viewpoint of, you know, mine aren't pristine. Most of mine are very, very much damaged or have holes and things. I have a few, but I don't care because I know that they were so important at one time to someone.
Yeah.
And that this has a name on it too. Actually, we didn't talk about that. That's not normal for a lot of them, but she was so good. She put her name on it. Good girl.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, this next
Gorgeous.
one.
Yeah, this is another one that was just really neat. And I don't remember where I got this one. I may have gotten it from Lorraine as
It
well.
looks like a Lorraine.
Yeah, but it's actually another sample, and so there's a lot of joins in it, and you can see it's a little bit later from the 1900s, but you can see those things that look like pleats. That was actually them joining the fabric to show their skill set and being able to do that.
This is a working woman's representing her skills, but it's also someone that was not wealthy, because this type of presentation on what they're called schoolgirl rolls were very beautiful. They would have the same techniques, but they would be with fabulous fabrics and silks. And so when you see one like this, you know that definitely we keep going back to the fact someone was trying to earn a job. If you see one with the same format that's lovely, this was someone of wealth.
But the stitching on this is excellent, and you can tell, you know, at the top where you were a minute ago, where you see all the,
Look at,
yeah, it's beautiful. And, you know, they show their ability to put the buttons on there, and some of them have little tabs on there where they show they can make a
And the
tab.
buttonholes
Button
down
holes
here.
in
Yeah.
the bottom, which are all made by hand.
Right.
And for this person, the monogramming or the marking was very secondary. They were really showing their skill at joining in.
and they had to, because they had to mend things back then. You know, they weren't the throwaway society.
Take clothes in, let clothes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And those buttons that are survived too.
Mhm.
Now, so this next one is one of my favorite little things. And I got this. This is a friend of mine had this in her collection, and she passed away. And Susan made it possible for us to purchase some of those items. And this is a little tiny, it's very small. It's probably not even 7 inches high. Little skirt. Yeah, it's very tiny. And so you see all the lace at the bottom of it, and it's
Mhm.
just it's gathered perfectly. And so it's a sample of what this person could do, is what it is.
It wasn't made for a doll or for a baby. It was.
And then you see the
sample.
back of it's got the little monogram inset to it, and the pleats are perfect on it. It's just a beautiful little thing.
Well, that was one of the things that there's a whole chapter in Claire Hunter's book about the dolls and how they would use dolls, and they would create the clothing to absolute precision, and it was a way of sharing fashion, you know, across the country or whatever. And this reminded, when you said this was only 7 inches tall, this reminded me of that, where these dolls were basically models. They were manageable
Right.
models.
They didn't leave the items on the dolls. They would take them off and show them again to get work. So yeah, they were like their baby models, I guess.
Yeah, this is just so pretty. And a lot of these little things were sewn into books
Yes.
that then they could take their book in and show their samples in their
Oh.
book. But this one was just so neat because it had the little initials on the back and the lace at the bottom. And truly, when you look at the workmanship on this, it is like my mother was a seamstress, a commercial seamstress. And she hated to make doll clothes and Barbie doll clothes because they're so much harder to make on a smaller scale. You know, they're
Right.
so much harder to make. And the needlework on this is perfection.
I mean, the little stitches going down the V in the back. I mean, that just to me is fascinating. I mean, just little tiny, tiny pierces.
Oh yeah.
And you think about the needles they had, they weren't like what we have.
Right.
And
Just
so
every
Cheryl's
part of this
asking,
was handmade.
it was made as a sampler. I guess it's a sample. I guess is
As a
what she
sample.
meant.
Sample.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
probably, as Kim said, would have been mounted in a book. And it's really wonderful that this piece survived, because a lot of those books, they're shattered. They're not intact.
And so now this here, this WB, this is when we talk about marking samplers. this is an example here of what, am I correct that if you were marking clothing and say for a laundry or something?
Right. Yeah. You'd have your name sewn into it so you know which girl it belonged to
Yeah.
or woman. Yep.
It wasn't like going to camp, Gary, where you had to have your name inside of all your stuff.
Oh, okay.
I was a Girl Scout, I remember.
That's the only reference I have, Susan, is going to camp. So
Oh, you know, whenever I see something this marked, though, it brings back that memory. Oh, geez.
yeah. Wow. Yeah, when I got the pictures, I thought, boy, there must be a story behind this, because it's just a plain linen, but there really is a story behind this. This is fascinating.
They're beautiful. I'm telling you, I just was so drawn to this. Like, I don't remember when you had these out for sale, but nobody wanted this one and the other one that I sent in the pictures too. And I was so excited to get them because they really spoke to me since my mom was a seamstress. I knew how difficult that would be to do at that level of quality.
Yeah.
It's really hard because the longer you collect, you sometimes have to, take some things and you divest of them. I had this for quite a while after the person that passed away that I got it from. And I have many of her things. And I just thought, because a lot of the girls knew her and Kim knew her. And I thought, and I was really happy when you took it because I didn't know.
Oh yeah. And this one's neat too, like the WB, because that's cross stitched and then put in there on a piece of linen. But one of my helpers, Allie, is a weaver. And so on her weaving, and she does beautiful weaving, hand, woven things, blankets and coverlets and things. She will actually cross stitch her name in there. And she made something that I later purchased from her. And it's a beautiful coverlet, an Appalachian coverlet, and it's some very bright colors, just really beautiful. And after I told her I wanted to buy it, she went back and cross-stitched my name and her name and the date in it. And so they really are marking, and it's so meaningful to me. And it'll be meaningful now for a long time because I may not be remembered, but Allie probably will be because she's had some stuff on exhibit and, her work will outlast me, and one day they'll look at that and say, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And even if we both are completely not remembered, that work will be neat because it'll look like it was made, and it was, for one friend to another,
and that goes back to Kim's Bristol that's going to be published. When I mentioned all those different alphabets, that's a perfect example of what you can do on your embroidery, your stitching, whatever, with those alphabets. Perfect.
Yep. Neat stuff. Okay, this one.
I just love that. And, it's a sample. Again, it's a sample. And you can see that, it's got button snaps, buttonholes. It's got little pull tab things in there that you could pull out if you wanted to use to tighten up a skirt or whatever. Like you would have that. It's a drawstring almost, and you would pull both sides and it would cinch it up. And it's got the little tabs on there. I mean, it's just a beautiful little piece of, these are the things that I can do. And this person was also excellent. So, I mean, it's just amazing the quality that's in that. And this was in a book, and that's why it's the size it is. And it's the reason the edges of it are kind of ragged looking, but.
Yeah, that drawstring, I mean, that was a necessity. Someone would become pregnant or, be sick and lose weight, that they could adjust the size of it. And those were on men's things as well as women. It wasn't just for us gals.
Yeah,
and that beautiful little button that's still there. It's kind of neat. And I would say that this is probably early 1900s with that snap on it. But and that's a head of bow there, Susan.
Yeah, she's got that, which she would use for some side of attachment. The centerpiece that's down below, that's like a tab. Those were you always had to know how to do those because so many of the things were hung with tabs on pegs. You think about the shakers, how they used the pegs. Well, these people, didn't have hangers. And that was an example of what a tab would look like. And then they would have sewn it onto the clothing.
Yeah, when I lived in Holland, when I lived in the Netherlands, all the towels, and this is in the 2000s, all the towels and stuff that I bought new over there, instead of just being a plain towel, they had a little tab sewn on them. Even the bathroom washcloths and stuff and towels had little tabs, and you would still hang them by those little tabs on hooks.
I love that.
Yeah.
Neat stuff. Okay. Last one.
This one, okay, so this
cool
is a
for words.
model. Yeah. This is a model, and this is a local stitcher, my friend Debbie Moore, stitched this for us from our Saxon sampler. And we originally gave this away band by band in our newsletter several years ago. And we needed a picture of it before we could publish it because it's very long, the actual antique. And you're still scrolling down. This one is long, but you see the date on it. It's 1741. The antique is ancient, and it's a Saxon sampler. I don't know if I've said that yet. It's a Saxon sampler. Very typical motifs of a Saxon sampler. You see all these beautiful colors. These colors are truly representative of the antique. This is what it looked like. So it was bright and festive and beautiful. And as you go toward the bottom, the bands get smaller and smaller, and you can see that there's some initials there in red. And it's too old to really find out anything about who stitched it, but it is beautiful. Now, the initials at the very bottom, DLM 2021, that's my friend Debbie. So that's
good for
her. Yeah. So, but it's such a beauty. And this model, the antique was not, but this model was stitched on banding over one. And that's why it's the model, because even though the antique was stitched over two, we can't use a picture of something stitched over two and get it to look good for the cover. We really need something half the size. And so even though this thing is too long to fit in one piece on the cover, we'll have to split it into two pieces. But this one was stitched over one. So she did the whole thing on the 27 count banding over one, and it's just stunning. The antique was stitched over two on linen that actually, instead of the edging going side to side being finished, the top and the bottom are finished. It went from selvage to selvage, and they basically stitched across it,
Wow.
from one selvage to the other to get it all on there.
The banding is a pleasure to stitch over one. And I know Kim has great banding, and I'm sure many of you have done it, but it's just, it's so enjoyable. One of the questions that a lot of times people will ask, because the bands, you see, they're smaller on the bottom, and there are two concepts that we really don't have an answer for, but some samplers were stitched bottom to top. And that's one of the things that people wonder, is that why they started out little, or did they get tired and decide they wanted to get it done? And we don't really have an answer for that, but they do know by some documentation that some were stitched from the bottom to the top that were band samplers.
Wow.
At this rate, I'll never get done. Make big stuff.
Yeah.
You know what, Gary? Starting is fun.
Yes. I'm very good
The
at starting.
actual snake on this is really pretty. The snake on that tree, if you get to that snake you can enlarge it, the antique is really beautiful. And Debbie did this really beautiful too. It's blended. And so it's got this really cool, almost an overlaying of stitches there to get that snake. And she did such a good job with that snake. But he's really beautiful. And all of these motifs have meaning. Of course, that's an Adam and Eve. But then you've got the Lamb of God on there. You've got a spinning monkey. You've got that goose with the crown over its head. You've just got some really, really neat motifs on here.
Right, and you've got a crucifix, it looks like, and chalices, and not just.
Yeah.
Are there two lambs of God and one?
Yeah, that's another one there. There's a really big one up top, and then you've got that one there. And then that's the spinning monkey there by that parrot, and then you've got the reclining stag. It's just a really, beautiful sampler. But that, that is the colors. People question me on this one on the colors, but it is very true to the antique.
Well, and if you study that type of sampler, those
They
are the
were
colors.
bright, yeah,
That's what
pretty.
they talk about.
And so this one is kind of neat, but I would not suggest that you stitch it over one necessarily, unless you just want to. We just use this so we could get a good picture of it, but you could stitch it over two, over one, either way.
Well, look at all the things you can pull out of this one.
Yeah, this one's really beautiful for all the bands and motifs, and I love that multicolored clover band there. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I do too.
And it's just cross stitch.
It's all cross stitch. Yeah, there might be a tiny little bit of back stitch here and there, but it's almost all cross stitch.
So no Montenegrin.
No. No, but now I will tell you a secret. It was stitched reversibly. The antique was. This one wasn't, and I'm not gonna,
You're not going to go.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it like that. But in the 1740s, clearly they had nothing else to do. But it is stitched reversibly. The antique is.
No, we're not going there.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But it's a really pretty one, and
I'm excited for her to have it published because I copied all the pages and they're in a book.
Yeah,
but,
there's a few people that finished it through the newsletter. So
no, I want the book.
Yeah, I want the book.
Yep.
Okay, and what's there? There's something that looks like a kind of like a pear that has like a line going through it. It's by the man and the woman and the crucifix, and then there's another one.
Oh,
I think it is a pair, but I don't know the symbology of it. Barbara might
That one
know
right
that,
there?
actually.
That
There's a
one
few
right
of
there,
them on
yeah,
there.
yeah. I almost
I don't
looks
really
like
know.
almost like
I
a
think it is
sacred
a pair,
heart.
but I don't know the symbology.
Okay.
Yeah, the pair.
Barbara
The
is still-
parrot's beautiful. I don't know if she's on or not, but we'll look it up. Allie was able to find. I think it's in the Met. There's an old book that has a picture. It has a lot of these motifs in it, and she was able to find it, which was kind of interesting. And so there is some documentation out there as to what motifs typically showed up on a Saxon sampler and what the motifs might have meant. I'll have to look that one up. It's almost like an upside down crowned pear. So I'm
Mhm.
sure it has some meaning. You see the squirrel above the peacock?
Oh,
He's like, I love your
yes.
fluffy tail. I might nibble that.
Yeah.
Oh, and Teresa's suggesting maybe a shield. That's a good point.
Could be.
Heraldry. Because think of it, if it's different colors, maybe it meant something.
Yeah, it could be. Could be for sure.
That's a good idea.
Well, this was a great one here. It's I think my favorite.
Yeah, I like that Bristol.
You can tell that's a big one.
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. So when is this one being released, Kim?
That one's coming next. So as soon as we get that Bristol out, this one will come out.
All right.
It's ready.
All right.
It's ready.
So,
Woohoo!
yeah. Now that we have a picture of a model, we had to wait a few years for that.
All right. Let's see. Put you guys back on screen, Kim and Susan.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Here we are.
I was looking for the. Oh, here it is. Oh, I got. Oh, that one's not supposed to be up there. Hang on just a second.
Oh, those are the things from Avlia, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
from
the,
Krista West. Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Punched the wrong button.
That's all right.
But I wanted to
so
get
good.
up there. FT 20
20. Yep.
is 20% off, and now oh, here it is. FT 20,
There you go.
20% off now through Sunday at Sassy Jack Stitchery on the Sassafras sampler charts. So take advantage
Yeah.
of that.
I started to show you tonight all of the ones that we published, but then we've already talked about so many that it would have been a repeat. But
Yeah.
there's some really beautiful ones. There's, like I said, I think there's about 15, and we have a few original designs too. We've got a Mary Poppins, we've got a Macbeth sampler that kind of draws from original design and samplers. So we've got some things out there that are original design too.
Great.
So anyway,
Great.
have fun with that. Remember to put it in the coupon field and not the gift card field.
Coupon, folks, not gift. Okay.
Yeah.
Make a note. All right. We're going to call it right there. Thanks, Kim and Susan. That was so much fun. Really appreciate it.
Good. I'm glad you
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
Thank
All
you.
right.
All right.
Night,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.